Okay, people, April 13th, 2016. I think it's important to continue doing these videos. Obviously, I have a real problem with some sort of... Like, troll isn't even a good word to use for these individuals that attack my channel. They're not coming in with sympathy. They're coming in with rudeness and very confrontational, they're accusing, they're threatening, they're being overly aggressive. They come in as fake user accounts where, you know, they just pick some random name and they sign up a little YouTube account and that's it. That's all they use it for, is to go to other people's channels and harass them. All right? Newspaper. Local newspaper. Boy. Putting it down in the chute. So, I'm feeling like crap. It needs to be documented. For anyone to try and convince themselves that the kind of stuff that's been going on for a long time, you know, ever since Joan moved in, technically, even before then, but, you know, it just got worse when Joan moved in, and then it just got worse when I moved in here, and now it's really bad, right? In terms of the level of stress. I'm sorry, you don't work outside for almost 2.5 months to get an eviction notice so the landlords can say that they're the victims, right? Because they're old and they can't handle the complaints, right? Because the daughter says it started in May. Yeah, it started in May because I went off and got some water drums, I got wood, I got windows, I got canopies. I didn't get tarp, people. I got canopies, okay? Boat covers, that kind of stuff for the yard. And I got some toys for Andre, the bigger, larger ones, the sand play ones and the kitchen set and that type of stuff. And I put it pretty much in the front in 2015. And a few miscellaneous boxes and that kind of stuff with nails and things that people just throw out, right? Because I could use those nails in the yard. So if I found nails in Delta Spring cleanup in a bucket mixed in with other things and I didn't have time to pick out the nails, I'd just take out the garbage and bring home the bucket. Or I'd bring home the nails. Bucket to sort out the nails when I got here. So anyway, the city of Surrey, British Columbia, Canada, they took advantage of that, right? But there's more to the story, okay? Because my landlords, from the time that I moved in, I've been here for 6 years, people, okay? Within the first, I'm pretty sure I moved my family in December 10th. I have it on record, right? And within the first week of being here, the kitchen sink clogged. Downstairs kitchen sink clogged. The washing machine clogged. And we couldn't use it. None of it. We were washing our dishes and clothes in the bathtub. Okay? Because we couldn't use the sinks and we couldn't use the laundry. And it was like that for 12 days right up until after Christmas. Well after Christmas and well after New Year's. It started before Christmas because, lucky for me, I had taken my family to the Legion, where it was a Christmas dinner hosted by some group. Maybe it was a church, I don't remember. So I took Joan, John, everybody there for Christmas dinner. And I'd already planned to do it, but the sink backed up. So it wasn't like I could cook anything. Like dinner-wise, right? Plus, we still had boxes in here, right? Because we had just moved in. So we went like almost 2 weeks without, it was like 12 days, without washing dishes and washing clothes. And of course she accused me. What did you do? I didn't do anything. You know? I've been a parent a long time. I've lived in a lot of fucking houses, okay? I'm not an idiot. It wasn't me. So, they ended up unclogging it, that kind of stuff. And there was a pipe or like a straw in the drain because they had a plumber come, right? And eventually they had to snake it out because they knew they knew they had problems. Because when I moved in, there was drain stuff downstairs by the washing machine drain, okay? Anyway, this house is like 64 years old, right? So, 9 months later, the same fucking thing happened. It clogged up. Downstairs clogged up. Couldn't do your laundry. She had somebody come in and snake it. What did you do? I said, I didn't do anything. 9 months later, it did it again. And this was going on every 9 months. There was a short window of time when it stretched out and it went almost a year without being clogged. Okay. So, in the meantime, she's trying to accuse me of this, but she knew she had the problem before I even moved in. That pipe should have been fixed before I moved in. Just like the electrical wiring should have been done properly and not sparking when you plug something in before I moved in. Okay? So anyway, it wasn't soon after, because other leaky pipes, leaky sink, like underneath, those things leaking, right? Downstairs leaking, outside was leaking, outside in the front was leaking, everywhere was leaking. Not including this pipe backing up and clogging. And then along came the attitude, if you don't like it, you can move. But I was already in here, people. The minute I moved in here with my John, Marcaine, Shimei, Tisha, myself, my daughter was pending because she was vulnerable, right? And she did end up moving in and had a baby. You know, you don't live in a fourplex grow-up, spend out all this money for rent and, and painting and doing whatever you were doing there and to get kicked out of there, right? Because you wanted to be safe with the hydro. To end up in here, it cost over $2,000 just to move into this place. That's moving people, gas and paying people. Not including damage deposit. So it wasn't like I could pick up and move out the minute she said, well, if you don't like it, you can move. I was already here. Nobody in the house wanted to pack up and move again. And even if they wanted to, it would have been me that would have had to pack it up and move it out. Sure in hell wasn't fucking Joan. And it wasn't my kids. John couldn't do it. That's why he had me all these years. So we stayed. And I tried to like it. I tried to like it. So maybe that's one reason I put so much energy into the yard. Because there was nothing I could do about the house with no inside stairs and all this fucking water and crud and grit and crap and just all this garbage that goes on these steps when it rains and gets tracked in. And, there was nothing I could do about that. I had to learn to live with it. On top of having to wash the floor by hand because they put in something that you can't use a mop. So I guess I took my energy and I tried to make it nice in the yard. I tried to make it nice. Landlady's daughter says, oh, well, you did it for yourself. So therefore that makes it okay and we're not responsible. No, I did it out of necessity, first of all. Because if I was going to live here for any length of time with my family, once we landed here and got stuck here, right? Why the hell would I want a weedy fucking backyard full of fucking raccoon shit and mold and dirt and algae? Because when the morning glory dies, people, it turns into algae. Not to mention all the other weeds that is like this. I have videos of it. like 3 fucking feet high, all in that one fucking corner, from one end of the fence to the other, 3 feet high. You want to go take a lawnmower and go mow that and consider it to be a good backyard? When you're stuck on a piece of property and you've got nowhere to go, and this was the best house that you could find out of fucking 15? And you thought you had a good landlord? Because if the other 14 are crap, what does it say about them and their abilities to be landlords? Not very much. So at least here we had a fighting fucking chance. So I thought. So I did. I put energy into the yard. First of all, out of necessity. Otherwise, I would have been living in fucking filth for sure for the next umpteen years of my life. I just couldn't cope with that idea. So I got out there and I looked at the problem and I thought, okay, well, the best thing you could do is build around it. Cover it up. Dig it out. Transplant grass, whole pieces full, put it in there and watch it die, because nobody wants to do anything about the water drainage problem out there. Right? So, quiet. Right? And years. 6 years. 5 years. I mean, obviously I started in 2010. I just didn't videotape it. I didn't start videotaping until Fukushima came along, because I didn't know what to talk about on freaking YouTube. Right? I was trying to do a little bit of cooking and that kind of stuff. You know, whatever. I don't know. It was the X Club, and it wasn't so much the yard until I got, again, more entrenched. Well, if I'm going to build a greenhouse, I might as well videotape it. You know, if I find a fucking chicken, I might as well videotape it. Well, you know, they're just letting me do it because they can see, right? It's nice. If you give it a little more time, it gets a little nicer, right? The only thing is, I can't afford more rent, because I can guarantee you, the day I leave this place and they rent it out to somebody else, that somebody else is going to be looking at least $1,850, if not more, because of the greenhouse out there and everything else. I wouldn't be surprised they don't try and push for $2,000 for this place because of the work that I've done in terms of rent. If they sell it, well, they make a pretty penny off of it, because ain't nobody else in this neighborhood has what's in this yard. With or without mud. Because they're going to come in fresh, right? Oh, it's just mud. Oh, we'll figure it out. Don't worry. That's the least of our problems. Fucking right, it's the least of your problems, because I took on the bigger problems. And I was successful at dealing with those problems. So much so that it got me kicked out, because everybody around me is fucking jealous and spiteful and vindictive. But the thing is, they've been putting this house up for sale, like I said, almost from the first year I moved in. First warning. A year and a half later or whatever it was. Oh, well, it was my brother. Because people come into my door asking me to come inside and see the house, and I'm like, why? Oh, just tell them the house is not up for sale and send them on their way. Okay. So, for years, it's been random. This last time, though, was, I don't know what it was. Because I personally think that they've been wanting me out of here now for at least a year. Ever since Uncle John's been medically kidnapped. Because my landlady came up in here with her husband, sat up at my kitchen table. You know, we were talking about Uncle John going missing and all this other stuff, right? And she's looking at my books up there, telling me to get rid of them, telling me to sell them. And I'm like, well, do you realize that if I sell them, I'll be lucky to get $2.50 for them, when there's like thousands of dollars worth of information in there? And that's all I have. That's like all I have are my books and the few little things around it. My fucking whole living space is just the size of her kitchen. That is just the size of her kitchen. Who is she to tell me to sell my $2.50 book so that I can make it easier for her to have people to trample through and say, get out after the work is done, so we can capitalize off of it and continue to treat you like a second-class citizen. And her husband said, shh, shh, quiet. Don't say nothing. Just leave her alone. Because I don't commit no crimes, people. I worked hard like a fucking dog for 6 fucking years to get kicked in the ass. And have a nervous breakdown over this shit. As if I don't got enough to have a nervous breakdown over. Because I'm not well. And I'm documenting this. Because if I suddenly up and fucking disappear, clink, we know why. It's documented. Because this is no way to live. And it's been like this for a long time. If you don't like it, you can move. Yes, I like your abuse. I like you not fixing things on time. I like going 6 months without a washing machine and a fucking dryer, right? That was just happened in July of last year. You forgot, I didn't forget, and I did tell you several times. And I didn't even try to complain about that, and what did it get me? I left it alone. Until finally, 6 months fucking later, I said, can we get the washing machine and dryer fixed because the kids are going crazy downstairs. They're all getting mad because they can't do their laundry because it's too hard to do it up here in my little apartment-sized wash machine. And they had no way to dry their clothes. And my little dryer blew out. And I left her alone for a couple of months because she's always crying, oh, I have no money, not enough money, I pay taxes, and, So I left it alone because I was feeling vulnerable and I didn't want to stress her out. And this is how she thanks me. Because she wants more money. That's all it is, people. $18.50 and up. Right? She already had one tenant do a midnight move on her. In her other house. And she expects that from me. Oh, just get out in a month. 30 days. Doesn't matter what you've done in the last 30 fucking years. Never mind what you've done for me for the last 6. Never mind that we put you on the run in the last 2.5 months with the fucking city arm in arm. That was a big setup, that one. Big fucking setup. Oh yeah, so they come in May. They steal my chicken. I don't believe the hokey dokey that he's okay. Just something to use and look at and abuse. That's what happened to Mr. Lace. Because if they're doing this to me, they're doing that to him. So, if I move from this house, because I have to move, right? So when I move, right, and I'm not going to stay where I'm not welcome. I'm tired of being in an abusive relationship waiting for the porch to get fixed. Being accused that the morning glory belongs to me. All right. That little thing that I carried up over here by the hen house, that car canopy was sitting out there in the front when the city came by with their little citation, right? But if you notice, none of this shit got tore down. It's all up there. All right? Nobody said to take it apart. So obviously it has value. All right? Value to somebody, but not value to me. Although I'm the one that's getting kicked out of it, over it, because it sat out in the fucking yard in May when I dragged it home from over there, from a house that got evicted, just like my house is getting evicted. The only difference is that house got tore down and now they're building condos, where over here they're just raising the rent. And if they're not raising the rent, they're selling it for $750,000 fucking dollars. Because of what is in the yard. Well, the trolls are lurking around in the background saying, she cut off the comic section. How can we get her now? What can we do to piss her off now? Right? So, it's almost like, and here's another thing. My kids want to stay, right? We don't want to separate as a family. So, I have to look for another house, and it's already making me want to puke. Like, seriously, it's making me want to just, I get this big ball of just tightness, and I just want to throw up. Because that's the only thing I can look at if I'm going to keep my kids with me, and they don't want to be separated. We've already been bashed apart, right? You know, we don't want to be totally bashed in. So I'm now having to look for another house. And you know I'm looking at the yard in the daytime. And you know I don't want a whole lot of fucking yard work ever again. Because let it be a warning. Don't waste your time. That's why so many people have bad attitudes around us. In society, just throw their garbage on the ground. Take their freaking rotten porches and throw it up over there on that field over there, right? Right across from the freaking kids, eh? You know, all their garbage. They evict somebody, throw all the stuff in the trunk, in the truck, and they drive it over here and they dump it up over there. How many times of videos have I shown you that? Right? Lots of videos. Doesn't matter. All kinds of people, right? So why bother wasting your time? Because you're just going to get shit on anyway. I mean, if this isn't being shit on, I don't know what is. All right. So I'm looking now to look at a different house, and I'm scared. I'm having panic attacks thinking about that alone. So the least I can do in the yard, the happier I will be. Because then at least I'll have a life at the next location. Here, I had no life. My life was for the end goal, and this is almost the end goal, and they're taking it away from me and my family. Because they don't like me talking about them not fixing the fucking porch and that type of shit. That's what it is. And money. Money. Just like, well, get rid of the books. Why do you need so many books? Well, what does it matter? You're getting your rent. Right? Why lead me on for another year to keep me out there, continue working, and then bringing the city to fucking put the whip on my back and make me finish the job faster than if I had the year to do it and actually try and get back some of my life. I'm in a position where I can start getting back some of my life, and these people are taking that away from me, and they're throwing me into chaos. And they're putting a financial burden on me that I don't have. Because when I moved in here, this place was empty for 20 freaking days. And I started to move the stuff in like that. That's why we didn't know there was electrical problems in the house until after we moved in. And the wall units were already up against the wall. And then a couple months of having problems with the electrical outlets. Eventually she had to come in here and have a guy come in and change every single outlet throughout the whole fucking house. Up and down. Because they were so volatile, rotten and old and decayed. Well, that took a real time off my hands because I had to move everything from the walls. Bookshelves and all that crap. Dressers. That wasn't an inconvenience though. Alright, that was nothing. So, when I go look at a new house, am I going to have to do that again? Frickin' get in there and find out that the thing is sparking when you plug something in? Find out that the pipe is broken and busted up downstairs underneath the bathroom cement because it's 64 years old and somebody did something and they've been trying to snake it out for 55 years out of the 64. And they break the freaking branch line. And then the main line Because that's what they fixed. They fixed the branch line. And by fixing the branch line with the beating up the cement and beating up the fucking pipe and everything, they jiggled it and shaked it so much that they broke the main line. And destroyed 4 years of my hard work. And then acted like it was nothing. Acted like it was absolutely nothing. So what was the point? Right? So when I go, I'm going to need another house before I move in. And 1 month before I move into that house to start moving stuff out of this house. So when the big truck comes, it just goes. That's the only way I can move effectively out of this house. The way I moved in. With no resources, absolutely none. Because there are no checks and balances within our public service sector, fucking, union pension workers. Right? They can just... Battery went low. But yeah, you got these public service sector union workers that can just show up out of nowhere, put a fucking whip to your back, get you out there working in the cold, in the rain, doing the most grodiest job, washing wood, building fire sheds for the wood, because he knew the house was up for sale, and it was his job to make sure that the property gave a good impression so that the landlord and the realtor of that property sale could make the most dollar amount, which trickles into the tax gene pool of City Hall. Just like those care wards. Throw out the poor, milk, and take away the ones that have money, their assets. If you can get away with it. Alright? Because you're dealing with predators. This is what predators do. Oh, I like to hear two sides of the coin. What's the landlord's side of the coin? They made a lot of money off of us, right? $112,000, $113,000 in rent alone. In rent alone. Doesn't include 6 years of hard labor on my end. Right? Because if you noticed, nobody helped me in the yard unless I paid them. In terms of men doing carpentry and that type of stuff. Andre. And landlord didn't want to help. You know that. It's pretty apparent, right? If they were helpful, they would have been out there. I would have talked about it all these years. They knew that my kids weren't helping. It's kind of pretty obvious. I only told them that I'm the only one out there doing it. And now they broke me. They completely broke me. And they think it's funny. They think it's funny. Because they have their side of the coin. $113,000 later. Add on another $100,000 for free labor. Right? So that's $213,000 that they've gotten basically out of me since I've been here. Not including the materials and the things that I brought home that would have costed money if I would have had to pay for it. So you can add in another $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 if you really want to crunch numbers. Right? So that's $23,000 since I've been here. That's their side of the coin. The minute I leave, they get to jack up the rent by another $200 at least, minimal. But they're not going to be satisfied with $1,850 because they're fucking greedy. So they're going to either try and get $1,950 or a flat $2,000. And because they're trying to promote the neighborhood as the better part of Wally, where the medium income is $50,000 to $70,000 a year versus $13,000 a year, they're going to bring somebody in that's not a welfare mother with old dependent people and dependent children. Because my kids were dependent. They're not going to make that decision because it's not profitable. They'll want a yuppie family or some Asian family that is working at their own restaurant and waiting to buy their own house or something, right? Just to get the most amount of money. That's their side of the coin. It's not about, oh, well, this stuff started in May. Well, technically, City of Surrey should have annual general spring cleanup. Surrey is culpable in this as well because they're working in partnership with the realtors and the homeowners, right? And we know how they treat the homeless people. They don't treat the homeless people any more different than what they've been treating me. And they don't care where you go as long as you're gone, just like with Mr. Lace. They don't care where you go as long as you're gone. They don't care where the homeless people go as long as they're gone. They don't care where vulnerable families such as myself go as long as we're gone. All they care about is getting that money from those temporary care wards and getting that money from the sales of their property. And charging everybody on the SkyTrain for infractions so they can get $175 off of 12-year-old kids for a SkyTrain infraction. It's true. Right? That's what they care about. So I'm just taking it one day at a time, people. I'm sick. I'm so sick, this is making me even sicker. And I am documenting it right now. If something bad happens to me, this is why. Because I'm being... This is psychological warfare. Okay? Two sides to the coin. $223,000 later, I did all the work. I put up with the leaky roofs, the muddy yard, the crashing of the down of the whatever, having to wait for 2.5 years before they changed the water tank, having to move everything from my walls so that when the next tenant moves in or the new owner gets the house, there's good electrical outlets in there because when I moved in it wasn't. I'm now being forced out into that kind of environment again where the houses that I'm going to be able to afford, which will probably be a house like this for $1,850, won't have their plumbing basically fixed, won't have their electrical outlets basically fixed, could have already a leak in the roof coming in from somewhere. Who knows? It's a hit and miss with these kind of houses, I'm telling you. And especially when the owners of these kind of houses live in kitchens as big as my whole main floor. Right? And that has to be paid for somehow. I know, they earned it. Well, my landlord was a taxi driver for all those years. He worked very, very hard. I understand that. I appreciate that. But at the expense of exploiting poor families too, though, because this is the perfect example of why the haves continue to get more and the have-not, such as myself and my kids, get less. Well, Uncle John, this is his chair, is probably in a care home right now, being ignored by his extended family because they got what they wanted. They wanted his money, and now that they've got it, and they've got him tucked away somewhere else, and he's somebody else's problem, right? You think Uncle John is going to be the last person to go through what he's gone through? The way we treat each other in society? Right? That he's just the tip of the iceberg because I talk about it. Right? Nobody talks about it because they're afraid. Because as soon as you start talking about it, you talk about how the city is in bed with the landlords and the property owners and that, and you just cut it straight to the fucking chase about it. This is how you get treated. And of course my landlady's daughter is saying, well, it's Asian. Only the Asians are the corrupt realtors. Not us Punjabis. God forbid. Our religious book teaches us morality. You know, I'm wondering what they call their God. Like seriously, I wonder what they call their God. Because they don't seem very godly. This isn't godly. This is nothing godly about this when you leave this house to find the same kind of fucking house in the same worse shape than when you first moved into this house, and you have to start doing it all over again to find out that you're going to get kicked out. And if you go ask for help for a little girl and her sick mother from the men in the community that represent their temples, you know what you get? Fuck you. That's what you get. They just don't say it like that. They just